Hello and a warm welcome to 2025. This is the first in a hopefully series of videos that I'm going to start doing on a regular basis, where I give a bit of an overview of what I'm working on and talk you through some of the more interesting n8n workflows, FlutterFlow applications, and general low-code work that I'm doing. Today I want to look at an AI research agent I'm building. The AI research agent is used to research information about companies, people, based on URLs. So this can be used for a multitude of purposes. You could use it to enrich information for prospective customers. You could use it to do competitor analysis, or you could use it to gather information to train an AI voice assistant, which is actually what I'm doing for this particular application. So we actually have an application that I'm building in FlutterFlow. So in the application, the user completes a sign-up form. At the back end, this is actually creating the user within Superbase and handling all the authentication there. The first part of the process is the user inputs a link and hits submit, and the n8n workflows then trigger off to do a bit of research and generate the data that's required that will eventually be used to train the AI voice agents. So the first workflow that we'll look at is the user registration workflow. So this workflow consists of a webhook, which is triggered from within the application. As I say, we're using FlutterFlow to do this. Coming into the webhook, we have the URL, and I've given it a bit of a hard-coded prompt here for this particular application in terms of what we want to get from the research it's going to do. Now, if we look at the AI researcher, the execution that's just taken place, you can see there's two inputs for this AI researcher, and this is so that it can be used either as part of a workflow or can be used independently as an API, meaning that prompts that I showed you previously can be changed to get more refined results depending on what the use case is. So the workflow starts with one of two inputs. The data is output into a merge node, which we're using to unify the output, allowing it to be used later on. We then execute a link scrape. For this workflow, we send the URL. We use a HTTP request to actually visit the web page and return the HTML from that website. And then we are setting the HTML with a set node and passing it over to a code node here. Now the code node uses a JavaScript library called Cheerio. The purpose of that library is to analyze HTML and extract information from it. So the JavaScript that we have here is analyzing all of the HTML and extracting the links that we want. So there's a bit of logic in here, so it doesn't include things like image URLs, and it's really set to make sure that the URLs it returns are going to be of use. So the advanced scraper actually triggers a microservice that we have running on the server, and it executes a Python script for some more advanced web scraping, maybe to get around some of the limitations that some websites impose to detect bots. So we have a Python script here, which is set up to utilize a headless browser and extract information. But this is really a fallback route in case the first HTTP request encounters any errors. And again, it sets the results into a set node and goes into our JavaScript node to extract the links. We then set the links and return them to the parent workflow. So if we head back over to the AI researcher, you can see that the outputs of the link scrape are the same. So these links are then sent into the research agent. The research agent has a number of tools it can use to conduct research, and some prompting that explains how to use the various tools. So we've got a get content tool. So it sends the primary link that was originally submitted by the user, but it also has the ability to send any of the links that we've scraped. So this is where the link name comes in handy, because the AI agent can understand the context of what the link is and decide whether that link is worth visiting to gather more data. If you have a look at the get content tool, you can see it returns Markdown, and we are returning it in Markdown because we don't want all of the HTML that's usually on a website. We only want the readable information that's going to be useful to the LLM. We can see on this particular run, it has used its get content tool 8 times. So it's actually looked at my Facebook page, looked at my blog page. It's looked at my calendar. It's looked at my LinkedIn profile. It's had a look at my privacy policy and so on. So you can tell it's done quite a bit of research there just based on that initial link that I've given it. It also has a search tool. So we are using searching. This is actually a self-hosted solution, meaning that we don't need to use any APIs to conduct web searches. And it's quite an interesting tool. It has an API and it allows search results to be returned in JSON. So you can see it's actually done a search for my contact number. So it must not have found it from the URLs it was given. So it's decided to do a web search. And in the results, you can actually see it has found my telephone number there. We also have a structured output tool to ensure the results are output in JSON, allowing us to use it later on within our application, within subsequent workflows. So if we have a look at the agent, there's two parts that make up this agent really. So we have system message, which gives it an overview of what its role is. So from a high level, we are telling it that it's an assistant to an assistant, and its role is to help another LLM understand subjects and train it based on data. And then we're giving it some information about what we want it to do. So for companies, look at home pages, services, FAQs, etc. And we're telling it to visit links, multiple links, to gather as much information as possible. We're telling it to make an effort to visit sublinks to make sure nothing's missed. And then we're specifying what we want the output to be. So we're giving it a basic JSON object to output all the information. And then moving on from there, we're giving it kind of a step-by-step guide about what I want it to do in terms of gathering information, reiterating the output, and then giving it a JSON schema at the end. And then within our prompt, we're actually using an XML schema here. So it's worth remembering that these LLMs have been trained on HTML. XML is a subset of HTML, so they understand XML quite well. So it's a pro tip there for prompting, use XML. So within the prompt, we are inserting variables. We're inserting the primary homepage that the user would have input, and then we are inserting the additional links that we have scraped. And then we're giving it some guidance about what we want it to do, the kind of information that we want out. And, for the JSON object, we're giving it a bit more detail about what we want the values to be for each key, giving it some more information about how it should process the information and some special instructions as well. And then at the very end, we are giving it the user prompt from the API or from the application, which is just used to refine its outputs a little bit more depending on the user's preferences. So once it's gathered all of that information, it's going to output a detailed description of the business or of the person in Markdown, which can then be presented back to the user or used to train another agent in this case. So this will be used as part of a system message for the voice AI agent. And then in addition to the Markdown, we're also breaking down a lot of information about the organization. We have entity names, we have a spoken greeting, and a spoken about section, as well as the information that you can see here. So it's done quite a good job of researching my company, gathering a lot of information. Within our FlutterFlow application, we could then present this to the user on a screen and allow them to make edits to it before sending it off to train our AI agent, which is the idea. Once it's finished doing its research, it's then going to send the information back to the parent workflow or to the API that has called the webhook. So let's have a look at some of these tools in a bit more detail. So we have the Get Content tool. Okay, so our Get Content tool has some similarities to our link scraping tool. As you can see here, it follows the same workflow in terms of getting the HTML and extracting the links. But then it also takes that HTML and just returns what we need in Markdown. And we're also returning additional links. So every time it visits a page, it isn't just returning the Markdown, it's also returning any links that are contained within that page and sending them back to the researcher. This is so that it can continue, it can go deeper, it can continue to go deeper into a page, it can research more topics, and it can go to any level of depth it decides it needs to achieve the goal. Next, we have our searching tool. So we execute the web search with a HTTP request to searching, which is self-hosted on our server. This means that we don't have to pay for any APIs. So the web search then returns JSON results. It includes the URL, title, and some content. And it returns the top 10 most relevant results. As you can see, we've done a count here and sorted by relevance. We then use a set node to set the information that we would like, which in this case is the URL, title, and content. This information is then sent back to the agent. It has not only the URL, but also some context around what that URL is, which will then inform its decision about whether it should visit that web page or not. And if it does visit that web page, it uses its get content tool again. So that's essentially how it does its research. It's able to get web pages, get links contained within web pages, perform web searches, get the results of the web searches via links, visit those pages, get subsequent links, and on until it does as much research as it needs to. Then back within our registration flow, coming full circle now, so you can see that the research has been complete and we have the outputs. We then save that information to our Superbase table on the user role so that it's ready to be used within our application. We then generate a greeting using the 11 Labs API. We used a code node here to format this in such a way that it can be uploaded to a storage bucket within Superbase. Once it's been uploaded to Superbase, we generate a signed URL, and we do this for the greeting and for the spoken about section. And we save that within Postgres so that it can be used later on within our application. And then we respond to our application front end where the user is able to preview the greetings.
Hello, thanks for calling NoCodeCreative.io. I'm Sarah. How can I help you today? Sure, I'd be happy to tell you about NoCodeCreative.io. We empower business growth through cutting-edge AI solutions and low-code development. We specialize in bespoke solutions that streamline processes and enhance innovation. How can we assist you further?
So the next screen in this application will be a configuration screen where all the information is presented to the user. They're then able to edit that information, tweak it to their preferences, and then we'll then send that information off to train an AI agent. And the AI agent will then be ready to answer telephone calls, give information about that business or person, we'll be able to link it to CRM systems to create users, and a whole range of other things that might be useful for an AI voice agent to do. So that has been a walkthrough of my AI research agent. So I hope you found this walkthrough useful. I'm going to give you some ideas, show you what I'm doing. Obviously, this can be used for many different purposes. So because we're building it as an API, this can be integrated really into any application or any workflow to conduct research. It can be used for lead enrichment, it can be used for competitor analysis, and I'm sure there's a load of other use cases people could think of as well. So let me know what you think. Please do give it a like and subscribe if you found this useful, and I shall see you in the next one.